Salutations, my friends. Thank you for tuning in to another minicast that we are doing. I've titled this one Mainstream Satanism because we're going to be looking at that. The fact that with all of last year's pedophile roundup, magic resistance, the occult implications of things like Holly Wicked and everything else, we didn't really hear a whole lot about the movements of the Satanists. Now, if you pay attention to the show, we definitely track these types of things. I know a lot of people think it's hokey pokey. I know a lot of people don't take it serious, but they don't really understand the deep implications of this spiritual warfare that we are engaged in. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. As I said before, I'm going to be titling this minicast Mainstream Satanism because look at this. The Church of Satan is experiencing a huge swell in membership as Satanism goes mainstream in America. Now, when we're looking at these types of things, we have to understand that this is not simply a spiritual battle. This isn't simply people sacrificing chickens and saying, they've renounced human sacrifice. We've got to understand the times that we are in. These people are using political correctness to try to subdue people into the way that they would like for them to operate. This is why you have homosexuals going into churches or into Christian stores and forcing the people to actually make them cakes. This is why you have people literally using political correctness to destroy lives. I know it sounds silly. I know it sounds extreme, but look at what's going on. This is why we have political correctness, why kids and transgenders are able to be in the same bathroom together, why we're able to have he-she's go into restrooms and talk to children. Oh, but it's okay. They get to define themselves. We have all kinds of different things going on because we're adhering to man's law, to political correctness. We're adhering to society's expectations. Right here, this is where it actually gets to the point. Whenever you literally have Satanists going into the church and proclaiming their faith to Satan. This was the invocation for July 14, 2016, the meeting of the Pensacola, Florida City Council.
We have an invocation by David Suhor. This will be followed by a Pledge of Allegiance led by Vice President Brian Spencer.
Pensacola, Florida's got Satanists.
We can.
Yeah, they abject the curses that are being put on their city. And so now you have them praying against this guy. They're literally protesting this guy's Satanism or the invocations that he's doing. And the reason why we have to look at these types of things is because if this was 2 years ago, like I said, we didn't really hear a whole lot about what happened last year with the Satanists. We just knew that we had a whole lot of pedophiles being rounded up. Apparently the swamp was being drained. That's what we were told, right? Look at what's going on. They're literally going into church proclaiming their faith to Satan. They're literally saying, you know what? I have that power. We have that power. And to be honest, there's not a lot of people going to church these days. That's entirely understandable. That's entirely very real. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be understandable. This is just something that people should inherently know. What we're dealing with is spiritual warfare. And because we have a whole lot of confused Christians, we have a whole lot of misguided Christians, we have a whole lot of people who are lost in the faith. These people aren't lost. They know exactly what they're doing. We're living in a time now to where religion and spirituality are in heavy contest of one another. And because these Satanists do not consider themselves religious, more so spiritual, they have opened themselves up to that many more possibilities. Now, 2 years ago, or towards the end of last year, I remember an article coming out about how, the LGBTQ 5478, whatever, the LGBT community were joining up with the Satanists. I thought that was crazy. I thought that was insane. The idea that you could have, again, somewhat militant homosexuals running out there molesting people. But then what did we hear about, again, some of this transgender stuff that's going on? These pedophile things that are going on. We have a lot of sickness going on in the world today. And whenever people try to shy away from it, it really does lose its potency. We really don't understand, how there is different types of magics going on against us. I mean, here, let's play this clip for you guys. The other day, December 18th, last month, I put up a post. Magic resistance. Mainstream media reporter worries that feminist witches are placing hexes on Trump. Now, this is, again, something that I've talked about time and time again. Magic resistance. You guys can go look this up. If anything, we'll pop into all of that later on. And it's basically that. Witches that come together every so often and practice witchcraft. That get together underneath a full moon, cast incantations, cast spells, and do these types of things. I know that all sounds silly. Why are they doing it against Trump? It's not against Trump. That could be only one of their targets. But we've got to, again, look at the spectrum of witches that are here. Feminist witches. And I know that sounds crazy. I love ladies. I love women. Do not get me wrong at all. But I think feminism today is being radically used by the CIA or the FBI or whoever is doing the social engineering, the Tavistock Institute, whoever is saying, destroy the family. You don't need to have children. You don't need to do any of that type of stuff. That opens up a whole other can of worms. But my point is this: we have people who are trying to destroy what seems like unity. They are using destruction for creative purposes. And that's the crazy part about it. They feel totally justified in these actions, but now they're becoming more and more militant. And it sounds silly, but watch. Let's take a listen.
I got the inspiration after reading an article by feminist Laurie Penny, and she was talking about feminist witchcraft. And then I started to look into it a bit, and I realized that the two things are actually increasingly entwined. So you've got the basic things like the Etsy stores, the Witchy stores, where they link feminist issues with witchcraft and Wicca and those other kind of occult symbols. But then you also have these groups of people who are actually starting to hex the president. I think in the 60s, it started with a bunch of people going out to hex Wall Street dressed in robes. And if you look on social media with the hashtag Magic Resistance, you'll see a lot of people who are actually starting to try and hex the president and people in the White House. So I thought it was an interesting story to kind of explore and see why they're doing this.
Yeah, and why do you think they're doing it? And
I got the inspiration.
I can tell you why they're doing it. It's to inspire other people. It's to tell other people, you can do this too. You can also go out and cast rituals. You can also conduct these types of things against people. The president, it doesn't matter who you're affecting. But understand that you can affect people. And by doing these types of things, you will get attention right there. Witchcraft goes mainstream as DC-based city witches aim to bring back that old black magic to your town. Again, another article that you guys can go look up on our website. Put it up back in October. These things are very real. And the reason why I try to follow it all, is because we have to understand that, boom, right there, thousands of witches cast spell on Trump every month to protect the world. And I know this all sounds wild and crazy and wacky, but didn't we have an entire year of pedophiles being rounded up around the world? How far off do you think human trafficking is? Let's take a listen to this.
I beseech thee, in my name, Lyric Momo Shatsi, in the name of all who walk, crawl, swim, or fly, of all trees, the forests, streams, deserts, rivers, and seas, in the name of justice, and love, and equality, and peace, bind them in chains, bind their tongues, bind their works.
Who do you think they're praying to? Who do you think they're really praying to? And shout out to Sarkado Gonnet. Shout out to this guy, for reposting the stuff. I appreciate it whenever people really do, because that way it makes it that much more easy for me to search. What I'm trying to talk about, by Satanism, by witchcraft, by magic, by the occult, all of these things being propagated every other day, that it seems like We've really got to understand the world that we're moving into. This is the occult. This is the occult world that I continuously talk about. This is what we see people doing. I truly believe that people do have, not necessarily magic, but do have abilities that have been suppressed throughout generations. Now, whenever people are casting these types of spells, like I said, who do you think she's praying to? Who do you think is listening? What do you think is listening? And again, by opening up these doors, by doing these types of quick rituals that they think are harmless, what powers do you think they're making themselves a vessel for? This all started off, this whole little mini-cast started by me talking to you guys about how the Church of Satan is experiencing a swell in membership. They say over here that it's a cacophony of different types of people. A cacophony of feminists, of activists, of all kinds of different stuff. Radical politics, feminist aesthetics, community unity. That's what they're trying to put their name on. Let's get into this article right here. Let's just get into this article. I put it up January 10th. It says that according to the LA Times, a heterodox generation of new self-described Satanists is appending old Rosemary's Baby and helter-skelter stereotypes in service of radical politics, feminist aesthetics, and community unity. What's fueling the nascent popularity of Satanism is the presidency of Donald Trump. I doubt that. The Satanists can't stand him. It's funny thing, 8 years of Obama and the Satanists didn't really have much to say. 1 year of Trump and it's an explosion. This is from Jeffrey Gratter of Now the End Begins, so you can kind of hear the little bit of a bias right there. But could it be that the pedophiles being rounded up and exposed? Is it no coincidence that Satanism is rising rapidly? As the end times of the church draws ever closer, the Antichrist is getting ready to take the stage. The newspaper sent a reporter to investigate a satanic soiree in California, in a California basement, where they found a coterie of artists, writers, and musicians who chanted "Hail Satan," while someone unacceptably played minor chords on the organ. Satanism is attracting countercultural Californians because it is seen as a community-based response to the Trump era. As the paper writes, traditionalists might debate if any of it's properly satanic at all. This new take is much more feminist than nihilist, flexibly self-aware, and better versed in internet culture than orthodox theology. Better versed is right. Consider the Church of Satan's laconic Twitter feed that rarely corrects these, taking those dark lords' names in vain. Sorry I butchered that last part. And it's because I started thinking, earlier this year, or basically last week, Hillary Clinton tweeted to the Church of Satan, basically saying that they were a religion and that they needed to be respected, and saying that it had also been too long, that they needed to catch up. So obviously, that's my thought process of saying that Chelsea Clinton, the daughter of Hillary Clinton, is aware of who the owner of the Church of Satan's Twitter is and is familiar with those types of people. Now, what they're basically trying to say is that Satanism is being watered down, and I can tell you that for a reason. They're purposely watering it down to attract more members. Whenever people tell you that they're not practicing human sacrifice these days, those levels might not be. When we're looking at religion, whenever we're looking at these types of things, it's the same thing as with the Freemasons. It's the same thing as with the New World Order and the Illuminati. There are different stages at which these people get their information. Sure, the lower levels might not necessarily be practicing or taking part in occult rituals. They're right. But the very act of them being there gives power to these people to go out and go conduct these types of rituals. That's a whole different concept. When people are being recruited into this order, into this religion, into this mindset, into this mainstream Satanism, they're voluntarily taking steps down this dark path. They think they're being countercultural. They think they're being edgy. They think they're, really being part of this resistance. And again, that's why it ties into politics and Trump. Trump is the triggering president. Make people go out and go do dumb stuff. And that's exactly what this is. Religion in itself is a cacophony of problems. It has a plethora of issues that I don't even want to unfold right here. And basically what we see happening now with mainstream Satanism, we see people who are who are lost. We see people who want something to believe in. We see people who actually want a deeper spiritual truth. And the church, with all the pedophilic stuff that's going on, all the exposés, Cardinal George Pell, Pope Francis's right-hand man, basically going to jail and being arrested for historical child molestation, from Pope Francis being, a false pope, to everything that goes on with the church itself, from the Bible being manipulated and having more than 14 books taken out and then being changed to all kinds of different versions. And then even that, there's so many different things that come with religion itself that Satanism doesn't offer that to people. And that's what you've really got to understand. When it offers indulgence, it offers what they consider peace and bliss. It offers everything that is carnal. And that's one thing that I can't stress alone. They want it to be all in the flesh, acting as if they are in the spirit. But that's how they get you. That's how the devil gets you. He does not come to you in his typical form. He comes to you as an angel of light, masquerading as what you would like to see. You see. And that's how this all works. When they work their way into our lives using things like political correctness, trying to say that this is for politics. Yeah, that's very right. What kind of world is that? What kind of reality is that, to where it's no longer physical, it's no longer political, it is now spiritual? These people are trying to bridge that gap. And they're using things like politics to recruit people. That's the even crazier part. They're saying, you know what, you don't like Trump? Come here to my little witch coven and we can sit here and cast spells on him. And as wild as that might sound, this is 2018. And have you seen the news? Things are crazy for a reason. They have to push the Overton window simply for these wild things to happen. A little bit of towards the end of 2016, I remember there was a lot of talk with Katy Perry and those types of people doing again more of this black magic, talking about how they're doing this ritual every month. It was Katy Perry, Lana Del Rey, and Lady Gaga who were talking about taking part in these types of things. I'm going to show you guys just real quick the articles that we have collected talking about just this, the occult world, 218. There's no way I can get to all of them, but I wanted to illustrate why this is important. This stuff pops up every now and then because it's important. Right there, exorcists are back in business in Europe. Look at that. Look at that.
To było ewidentne, że mnie wykrzywiało, że oczy mi wychodziły z gałki. Usłyszałam, jak ze mnie wydobywa
I heard this high-pitched, loud and long scream coming out of my mouth. It's a shocked feeling. And then the question, how can I help? So many suffer, tormented by sinister spirits. So many need help. I devoted all of my time to setting them free. You will leave him. And so let me try to look at this again, whilst looking at some of these articles. Boost for priests in battle against darkness, against the powers of darkness. This is basically where they're saying, the U.S. bishops published an English language translation of an exorcism ritual. There are a lot of things going on. There are rituals going on. There are dark satanic suppers that are going on, as you see here, where they held that Last Supper in the Anglican Church. You also heard about how they had that Illuminati fashion show in the church in London. It's crazy. It is crazy because this is what happens when they externalize the hierarchy. This is what happens whenever they know they have the power, the dominion, and the political leverage to do these types of things. They're now no longer staying in the shadows. They're coming out. They're telling you what they're doing. They're telling you what their plans are. They're telling you how they're going to seize more power. And they're also trying to do it real sly because, again, that's how the devil works. Came to you at a fashion show. They are holding a fashion show Masonic ritual inside of a church. We're not talking about the God eternal ritual that happened a few years ago as well. We're talking about, again, how this theme is carrying over. Right there. Witchcraft on the rise. This guy is on it. I got to give this guy a follow. Witchcraft on the rise. Put this up August 28th, 2017. Putin knows the West is controlled by satanic pedophiles. Right there. Boom. Satanic Temple founder says over half of the members could be LGBTQ. Put this up July 24th, 2017. It's by End Time Headlines from Ricky Scaparo. It says the co-founder of the Satanic Temple said that he would not be surprised if over half of the group members identify as LGBTQ. Because of its radically inclusive space, we don't have strict separations or definitions of our gay membership or our trans membership or anybody else, Lucian Greaves said in an article for Vice published on Monday. Still, Greaves offered that he wouldn't be surprised if more than half identify as such. Vice described the Satanic Temple as a, quote, platform for LGBTQ members to celebrate their identities. So again, more of this political correctness nonsense and how it's inflicting this kind of spiritual damage upon us. Let me, before I continue on with this, let me stop and say this. What we're doing by abiding by political correctness is, again, following man's law. We're not abiding by God's law. We're not abiding by, what is natural, what makes sense. These people are, and this is, again, where you'll get into the philosophical and moral debate, ethical debate with Satanists over this type of stuff, where they say, well, it is natural. We're only animals. We're no better than animals. We ourselves are animals. We're beasts. We're the beast man. And that we should be allowed to live this way. You should really talk to these types of people and understand these types of things. This is not natural, though. When you identify as something as this is because you're trying to make a political stance. Should I go around telling everybody, hey, I identify as a black young man? That's apparent. But whenever you go out in there and declare it, you are making a political statement. So now they have LGBTQ 547, whichever X, the whole LGBTQ community now adhering to the Satanic Temple mindset. This is the religion. Where do you think Antifa fits in all this if you want to get political? They are literally messing with the mind, therefore disrupting the spirit. Let's continue to get into this. Vice described the Satanic Temple as a, quote, platform for LGBTQ members to celebrate their identities, basically telling people to come, we will accept you, and suggested that they are drawn by the radically inclusive space for people who identify in all sorts of ways. Greaves explained in previous interviews that the Satanic Temple's members do not believe in Satan and God as literal beings, but view Satan as a metaphorical construct of rebellion. So again, the church, and this is where the church fails, we should be allowing people that are lost. The church is full. The church should not be full of blue collar people. The church should be full of thieves, sinners, whores, Jezebels, and people trying to find redemption. The minute that the people in the church exclude those types of people, they will find places like Satanism to go to. People are desperately craving for some kind of spirituality in this world gone hella wicked. But if the church is literally throwing people to the wolves, they have to figure out a way to survive or they'll get eaten. And right now they're getting eaten, but the problem is those wolves are having children. That's what we're talking about. The next generation of Satanists, the next generation of witches, the next generation of priests, poleros, babalaos, witches, warlocks, you name it, necromancers, whatever. These people who are practicing these types of occult rituals. That's why this is important. It's not just one article. It's not just, Katy Perry saying I practice witchcraft. It's not Lady Gaga talking about drinking blood. It's not about Lana Del Rey saying that, she takes part in rituals. It's not about Angelina Jolie's video where she's basically talking about how she takes part in rituals. It's about what that's doing to the spiritual mindset and to the spiritual orientation of people. The devil is rising. The occult is rising. The wickedness of these people is rising. But that gives us the chance to meet them off, to cut them off before they have a chance to flourish. But before we can even do that, we must understand the depravity of these people and the levels at which they're trying to go, how far this goes. Right there, astonishing rise in demand for exorcisms. Again, right here, thousands of witches gathering to cast spells against Trump tonight, June 20th. This is very serious stuff. And I try to pay attention to it, to really look at it so we understand what is happening. And with the advent of social media, and this is where I was talking to Robbie D and Marty of the Underground Resistance Network, and we got into a crazy old conversation about techno-sorcery and how the etymology of technology and how, to a degree, it could be even considered sorcery. But with the advent of technology and social media, you now have it to where people are able to communicate on levels that most people don't understand. And so what we have is this technologically charged spiritual energy that's basically waiting in reserve. What I'm trying to say is these witches are cycling out this energy every month, and whether or not we catch on to it, that doesn't matter. They're still going to be upping their power, getting more. But that's just the witches alone. We're not talking about the Satanists and the Luciferians, the people who are actually out there summoning entities, summoning spirits to have them go out and go do things, or the people who are allowing for themselves to be hosts for these types of energies. This all might sound strange to people, but you need to understand the levels that we are dealing with. That is why this is spiritual warfare. It's more than just politics. Trump is the trigger to set all this stuff off. We really have to understand the time we're in. So the idea of these people literally trying to make Satanism mainstream, literally allowing for satanic priests to go into church screaming "Hail Satan," we have to understand the boldness of these people. This is the externalization of the hierarchy. This is mainstream Satanism. However, that's all I really have for you guys. I know I kind of went over a lot, but it's to really illustrate the times that we are in. How do you combat such wickedness that you see taking place? How do you fight people who don't want discipline, who don't want truth, who find false light, who do the works of the adversary? How do you combat this spiritual world, this occult world that you find us living in? And even though we try to hide it, even though we try to look away from it, we understand that it's there. That's the occult underground. That's the bubbling darkness. That's the overall drive for what we see taking place. And unless we meet it on the battlefield and cut it off and stop it from growing, it will continue to fester. And that's exactly what is happening. I've documented this stuff time and time again. And we'll see where this goes. It's only the starting month of 2018, but I wanted to point this stuff out to highlight it, so that we could really encapsulate what's going on in the world. Why are these people trying to do these types of things? Why are they having so many different members? What is the intention of trying to draw all types of different ranges of people? The numbers of questions run deep. However, like I said, that's all I really have for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll have it in the description bar below. You know what else I'll put in the description bar below? The tag to our website, so you can go see all of our occult world articles on the website, as well as on Instagram, so you yourself can get aware and an idea of what's going on. But like I said, stay vigilant, expose lies, and share truth. This is Noise Era, Freedom Faction, out.